Worst Taco Tuesday ever because the Choco Taco discontinued. I guess we'll forgive you for that because we were not a Marquette house. We were a Badger house.
Hey, Catholic University, I can be forgiven, right? Forgive me.
Enough rosemaries. Yeah, exactly. You'll be fine.
Rosaries?
Rosaries!
Like the doors like light my fire, and it's like the time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Time to get your old fireplace taken care of.
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristin Brey with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada. Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. Happy Thursday. Jane, how you doing today?
I am great. And, you know, I was thinking about this. One of the things I love about working with you and producing As Goes Wisconsin and being here is the ability to be exposed to new music.
Yeah.
By all of our guests who suggest bumper music. I'm so excited about Milk Lizard. I don't even know what to tell you.
I'm excited about Milk Lizard because our guest today, writer and comedian, second time as a guest host. He's performed all over the world. He's the co-owner of the Laughing Tap Comedy Club in Milwaukee. Greg Bach.
Hello.
What's Milk Lizard?
Milk Lizard is a song by a band called the Dillinger Escape Plan, which was one of the best metal bands to come out in the mid 90s, early 2000s. I almost put a song on there called Panasonic Youth, but it has the rhythms are so polyrhythmic that you're like, I can't bop to this. It's all,
you just gyrate your entire body.
If you want to put Panasonic Youth as a bumper music, it's amazing, but Milk Lizard is just really fun. And I also suggested a death metal song because I just want to hear death metal on AM radio because, come on, let's do this.
Let's do this. If we're going to do it, let's really double down and commit.
Heck yeah.
Except we're not going to curse on air.
No.
No cursing on air.
No cussing.
Because the dump button's behind a glass door, so Jade can never get to it fast enough.
Oh, I can get to it if I have to.
No effins, no jeffins.
But someone has gone viral.
Oh, yeah.
For dropping a mother effer.
Yeah.
Don't know if you saw. I know you saw this. I know Jane's seen this. To the listeners at home. Also, listeners at home, if you would like to join us, as always, call or text in 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY. Because I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we want our politicians to be cursing?
Yes.
I say yes.
Yeah.
Jane, what say you?
You know, one of the powers of cursing, though, is when it's used sparingly.
Yes, correct.
If you drop F-bombs all the time, it loses its factor, So I think in this particular instance, he was correct. But I don't want to see this happening in every press conference every day. I think it loses its impact.
I agree with that. All right, so let's just set up what happened for the people who don't know. So outside in Texas, outside of ours echo chamber of Wisconsin politics,
there's goes Texas.
Yes, there is another very, very big national governor's race in Texas. Greg Abbott versus Beto O'Rourke, and
it just gives Greg's all a bad name. God, go on.
Don't you just wish someone would stand up for someone in Texas? I've been wanting. My friend told me that joke because he's like, I just wish the Democrats would go low on Greg Abbott, and that was his joke. So
because then he would just be like, see what they did, see what the evil Dems did.
Fair. All right. So, anyways, there was a rally, a town hall of some sorts. Beto O'Rourke was speaking, and he was talking about gun violence, and he was mentioning the Uvalde massacre that happened in, was that May? So it's been three months, 2 months. So let's just play the clip. I know we bleeped it.
I'm going to make sure that now 11 weeks since we lost 19 kids and their 2 teachers shot to death with a weapon originally designed for use in combat, legally purchased by an 18-year-old who did not try to obtain one when he was 16 or 17, but followed the law that's on the books, ladies and gentlemen, that says that you can buy not one, you can buy 2 or more if you want to, AR-15s, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and take that weapon that was originally designed for use on the battlefields in Vietnam to penetrate an enemy soldier's helmet at 500 feet and knock him down dead, up against kids at 5 feet. It may be funny to you, but it's not funny to me, okay?
So we had to believe it because this is the radio. But he said he literally, without missing a beat, looked at a heckler who was clearly probably, I think at least reports are saying he's a Greg Abbott supporter. And he looked at him and he said, "It may be funny to you, mother effer, but it's not funny to me." And obviously then everyone in the crowd stood up and cheered. Yeah. And this clip has gone viral. I think as of right now, it's been seen 5.6 million times on Twitter alone. I'm sure it's posted multiple times. So not even this original video doesn't encapsulate how many people have watched it. There's articles all this morning about it. And this kind of goes to what we were talking about yesterday with Joe Zepecki of what side you're on, because I am sure there is tons of people who are Republicans or right-leaning people who are, very like clutching their pearls this morning that he would say such a thing to a potential constituent.
But if they voted for Trump, they can't clutch anything.
Fair. But I saw this and, there was such a cheer. And I think it was kind of one of those moments where you kind of want politicians who are going to stand up to the bullies. And there's been, so it's like, I agree that I don't necessarily want politicians cursing, just dropping F-bombs like it's the locker room. But I do think there's something as far as using it for emphasis and being a little bit more relatable and getting fired up. Like every once in a while, Tony Evers will curse. Mm-hmm. Like I think at the DPW convention, so the Democratic Party of Wisconsin's convention in June, Roe had just been turned over. Yeah. And he was speaking. And, he's so soft-spoken most of the time. But I think he does have kind of a potty mouth. And I've heard he has a pretty dry sense of humor. But he's talking and he just says, "That's bull." And he said it. And so I think every once in a while, there is something when used correctly that feels, from a politician, that feels like, I don't know.
It also shows a sense of that they're not just, a lot of politicians could have seen that happen, or they could have skipped over it. They could have addressed it. They could have even worse addressed it in a politician's way, which have been very scripted in your head. And I don't think what I said was very funny. I don't, there's a billion ways you could approach it. I think the way that Beto did also speaks to his personality. It's very on brand for him. He's a punk rock kid. He grew up in El Paso skateboarding with the punk rockers. And
you think Beto's been in a lot of fights, fist fights?
That wouldn't surprise me. It also seems like, I don't know, but I just know he grew up with the band, the Mars Volta, and they're one of my favorite bands. So we
got them on the bumper music today.
I did not put them on the bumper music, but yeah, it's I think absolutely go for it. You stand up, you speak your mind. And if it includes a cuss, then go for it. Yeah. Don't be gratuitous about it. Don't be the swearing like a sailor politician, but yeah, it gets the point across, and it gets, and we wouldn't have seen that clip had he not said it. It would have been another town hall about gun violence, because they're happening all the time, all over the country.
Well, especially in Texas.
Yeah, right. But because he said that, that's why we're seeing it. And if you watch the video, he's dramatic. He does act outs in that video. He gets down on a knee and he's like, used for in Vietnam. I'm like, what is this dude? Is he doing an improv scene?
I thought the same thing. I was like, wow, he's really committing to this.
Yeah,
presentation.
That guy who laughed probably thinks Alex Jones is being given a hard day.
And he might have been, honestly, he might have been laughing more at Beto's kneeling, acting out the AR-15 rather than the children dying.
Honestly, I thought to myself, what if that dude's that wasn't why I was laughing? I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, back up.
You're right. I'm an MFer, but I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I was laughing because of your improv act out. I'm sorry.
You've trained. Was that Annoyance Theater?
Groundlings?
Second City? You're good. You should be on the SNL.
But I will say, because I always come back to this, because I would say in any time, I have a potty mouth, I would say being on the radio has helped me rein it in.
But once the cans come off the ears,
the mic's off.
Oh my God.
And
hide your children.
I remember once this was years ago, but a headline of multiple studies have been done on this. But in general, despite the social etiquette and cultural norms of not cursing, there have been studies done that found that people who swear are considered more trustworthy and honest.
Okay. I believe. I
And so
mean,
I always use that as my comeback when my parents are like, Kristin, don't say it like that. But yeah, it says, in fact, various studies have revealed that a little cursing could actually be food for the soul and indicate authenticity.
I mean, I think that he authentically presented himself and his thoughts on that person who laughed. So I don't disagree with that. But you know, I mean, I've met a lot of people who swear a lot, and I can't trust them. I mean, I think it goes more to the personality of the human rather than whether or not they're going to.
Well, there's not the word itself does not invoke trust. It's
drop a curse in church.
It still matters if the person themselves is actually a trustworthy person.
Why'd you vote for him? Guy cannot stop swearing. I mean, it is honesty all the way.
Totally trusted with my life.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
All right. So, in conclusion is sparingly.
Yeah,
we're okay with some swearing
Absolutely.
from our curse words. I mean, some swearing from our curse words, some swearing from our politicians.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're right. It's if it happens every once in a while, it can grab you, but it can bring attention. It can fire you up. I mean, I can't remember what it it wasn't even really a curse. When Barack Obama made a comment about Kanye West back when he was president, I can't remember what he called him, but like it was a curse, and it was out of step of Barack Obama's normal, very composed demeanor.
I don't remember this.
I think he called him the A word, maybe a horse's A word. Oh, can I? I
think we can say ass on the radio.
Jackass. I think he may call him a jackass. Which
we'll find out now.
Yeah, I'll pay the fine. But like I think even like that's the thing is even when a quote unquote curse word that's minute, but when it's coming out of the mouth of someone who never does it, you're like, whoa.
You're like, oh, they must be
serious. Oh, Dad just swore. Oh, we're in trouble now. He's gonna take away my Nintendo.
Don't make me pull over this car. All right. Well, we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about a cheese theme park that's not in Wisconsin, but maybe it should be. Maybe that's our next tourist destination. We're here with our guest, Greg Bach. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Brey. We'll be right back. It's a great drum solo. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Brey. Our guest today is Greg Bach. This
Hello.
is very different than Run the Jewels. That was your go-to music last time.
Yeah, you asked me for bumper music, and I just said Run the Jewels, and this time you said 6 to 8 songs. Like, oh, I'm diving in.
There you go.
Next time I'm on, it's going to be all like, just like kraut rock.
What is kraut rock?
Oh, I can turn you on to a 2-hour
sauerkraut?
YouTube. Oh, you shut your face. Bands like Can and Kraftwerk and just great music.
Great music.
Great music.
Great music.
So.
All right, so now we're going to talk about some great cheese, or
Yeah.
at least a great cheese theme park that you've found that is not even in the United States.
No, it's in South Korea. It's in the town of Imsilgun, and it is just a wonderful like it's a not just like a little small house of cheese. It's like a park. It's almost like a great America dedicated to cheese, because apparently back in like the whole history of it is that prior to 1958, cheese wasn't readily available in South Korea until a missionary came over and started making his own cheese, and then it became something people could eat there, and they love it so much they've built a theme park around it where like you it's what did it say here? You can take a pizza making class or a cheese making course. You can learn how cheese is processed. There are 2 restaurants, ride down a slide to the cheese playground and roam the grounds to see all the cheese shaped buildings and statues. I mean, you know, a lesser person would be insulted, but as a Wisconsinite, I feel like this should be a sister city. Some Wisconsin town should
like
try
Rudolph,
to. Yeah.
Right. And one of the places where there's a good cheese factory
Yes.
should be like,
yeah.
we should.
The Mars Cheese Castle people should go over there as goodwill ambassadors.
Should they build their own? I'm kind of surprised we don't have a theme park.
I mean, I feel
think
like
the closest thing we have to a theme park is Mars Cheese Castle, right?
it's beautiful too. I mean, it used to not be.
It's beautiful.
It used to not be it was just a building before, and then when they extended the freeway, they bought out the property, and the people who own Mars Cheese Castle had to move like the whole property or their whole building 10, 20 feet, or maybe a couple hundred. Like I don't know. I don't know math, but they knocked down the original building, which was just a building, and then they built an actual castle, and it is gorgeous, and it is just. Every time a friend of mine from out of town comes, I take him there because I'm that much of a podunk hick. I'm like, you really want to see some greatness here? Yeah, Golda Meyer's from Milwaukee, and we got a bronze Fonz. But I'm going to take you to a place where you can get a cheese sandwich where you can get anywhere else in the country. But are you going to eat in the castle? No, you're not. No, you're not.
What else do you get with you? Like, what's your go-to?
Gout. What? Oh, sorry. At Mars Cheese Castle?
Yeah.
I generally go for the curds, like, because they have all different kinds of curds from different companies. I couldn't give you any names because I'm not sponsored by them and they give me money, so I ain't saying their names. But like, they just got a fun gift shop too. It's tons of trinkets, tons of trinkets, and they have this. I had some friends here from England when I got married, and I took them there because once again, podunk hick, and there's this big like statue of like a mouse with a big wheel of cheese, and it says right on there, "Don't sit on the cheese." And what did my friends do? They sat on the cheese, like they're like, "Oh yeah, Revolutionary War. This is our take back. We're taking your statue. All right, or you may have broken off in your colonies thing, but what we're doing now, we're not listening to your rules." So yeah, I think this is a beautiful thing, and I think that someone here in the state, maybe the Governor Evers, I know you're listening to this show. Do me a favor. We met at a bar a couple weeks ago.
Really?
We did, yeah. I was hanging out there having lunch, and he was there having a meeting, and my friend walked over him just to shake his hand and say, "I think you're doing a great job." And I worked in politics, so I don't get like revved up about seeing politicians. Mm-hmm. I mean, he seems like a nice man, and also I just like, I didn't want to bother him. Mm-hmm. That's very Midwestern of me. But I was like in a Brewers hat, Brewers hoodie, was going to a game that night. and he saw me, and I just sort of
Well,
like,
you're also hard to miss. I mean, I know this is a radio show, but you
yeah,
have
I'm
you
a
have
big wall of white man right here. This is
you're
like
a big guy, and you
yeah.
also have a beard that goes down to your chest.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It covers my Run the
You
Jewels
don't
tattoo.
You don't like
No, I don't. I can't hide.
blend in.
No, but really, when it comes down to it, I definitely blend in with all the guys in Milwaukee. I mean, 1 out of 4 look like this. Just a big gray dump.
Be nice to yourself. That's
Whatever.
my friend you're talking about.
Oh, you're so nice. But he sees me and he looks over and he just comes over and shakes my hand. He goes, "The Brewers going to start winning?" I'm like, "Am I having this conversation right now?" So back there, Tony Evers, I want you to direct one of the cities here to become sister cities with Imilgun. Sorry,
Is that how you pronounce it? Did you look it up?
Oh no, it's actually Imsilgun.
Imsilgun.
I'm gonna just I'm gonna say it with as much reverence as possible. Imsilgun, because I feel like I want to go there and enjoy this.
What I love is that on the map that you can see of the article you found describing this place is the like animated characters who represent the different parts of the park. It looks like there's like Princess Peach is there from Mario. I don't think it's actually Princess Peach, but it's kind of in the same likeness.
And it looks like if Groot was a Pokemon.
Yes, and that too. And so I really want to know like a deep dive of who these characters are and like what cheese they represent. And I also want to know the variety of cheese that you can get there and how much is imported versus made on site.
Wow, you want like a real report.
I do. I mean, I'm so interested. If there's a theme park, like that's a commitment.
I want to go down there and slide down the slides. You want to kick in the door and be like, I want to look at your books.
Introduce me to the cheesemaker.
Yeah.
Who's in charge here?
Who's the great Oz of cheese here?
Pull back the curtain.
Yeah. Pull back the cheddar curtains.
All right. Well,
so we should all go there.
The
radio station should pay for a trip, fact-finding mission to go to Imsilgun and check out the wonderful cheese fun park.
We should figure out what we can learn from them and bring it back.
I'm just going to eat it. I'm not here to really learn. I'm just here to eat.
Just here to eat.
Yeah.
I'm just here to eat. All right. Well, we got to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about maybe the king of I don't even know, improv comedy, reaction comedy. I don't know. But Jordan Klepper came to town.
Oh God.
And he's really good at what he does.
He's just great. He's so dreamy.
All right. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Brey. We'll be right back.
Sometimes doing our jobs, and sometimes living off the land. Yeah, things went sour, and the girl she got to back it.
A progressive voice for rural Wisconsin. WAUK 540 AM. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
Hey there, my name is Kirk Bankstad and I own the Monaco Brewing Company. I teamed up with Pat Kreitlow, the managing director of Up North News, to create the Up North
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. This is Kristin Brey. I'm here with death metal savant.
Yeah, that was
Craig
Mastodon.
Bach.
That's Mastodon right there. Everyone should put Mastodon in their life.
How many mosh pits have you been in
None.
your life?
None. I am a guitar player, and I always went to the concerts to watch the guitar players play. Even from a very young age, the idea of walking into a group of people and saying, "Hey, I want to be hurt on purpose," never appealed. Still doesn't.
Although I've been told that mosh pits are actually, if you know what you're doing, there's a lot of trust that goes into
Yes.
the actual
It depends on
safety of it and the taking care of each other nature of it.
I think
I've never
it also
been in one, so I don't know.
I think it has to do a lot with the kind of music you're listening to. There are definitely like the old age New York hardcore music where it was about beating each other up and like knocking people on the ground. But I always felt like in the metal community, the heavy metal community, there was this sense of like, hey, someone's down, pick them up, be good, be nice to each other. You know, we are hitting each other, like bumping into each other, but this isn't about like hurting someone physically. It's about having fun. But still, it's never my thing. I'm like, I want to watch Kerry King play the solo to Raining Blood. That's what I want to watch.
I don't know who that is. Sorry.
Okay, get knowledgeable. Sheesh.
I will say one more thing about mosh pits. Have you watched Trainwreck, the 3-part documentary on Woodstock 99?
Is that the new one?
The new one.
I haven't watched it. I can only handle so many Woodstock documentaries in a year.
Wait, what other Woodstock?
There's
documentaries?
one on HBO Max as well.
About 99?
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
Why do they do these competing documentaries? Like
know.
there was like both the Firefest, and which is funny because Firefest, what I now realize, because I was a little too young to realize how much of a literal train wreck Woodstock 99 was.
Yeah.
And I almost tweeted out, I was like, oh, so Firefest was just like Woodstock 99 light.
Well, Woodstock happened.
That's true. One actually happened. But wow. I mean, but that, like looking at the footage of those mosh pits, that I don't think they were actually taking care of each other then.
No, it's that's
a little more dangerous.
We could do a whole segment about that, but
that was
it actually. Well, yeah. No.
Were you at the age when was there a part of you that wanted to go when they first announced it?
To Woodstock 99?
Were you like a teenager? Were you a teenager then? Were you in high
I was
school?
like, I was.
How old are you? I don't know.
I'm an old man.
You're not that old.
I've seen things.
Were you in college? How old are you in 99?
I was 21 going on 22.
So you were just finishing college.
I was just, I had just dropped out of college.
Got it. Okay.
I've seen things, Kristin. I've seen things. But yeah, I had no, I don't like big festivals. That's not my thing. I don't like being around that many people.
Never did.
No, it's never been my thing. It just feels very claustrophobic and weird. And I'm always afraid I'm going to lose the people I'm with. And especially in those days, maybe I had a cell phone at that point, but it was Sprint. The plan wasn't great. So
speaking of, how do you feel about being at political rallies then?
Love them.
Do you?
Oh God. Yeah.
So big crowds at music festivals, no.
Yeah.
But political rallies.
Oh gosh.
yes.
Yeah. I've been to plenty of those. They're fun.
Okay.
And honestly, if it's for a candidate I love, I'm energized. I'm feeling good. It's wonderful. I can get emotional watching it. I mean, I stood like 20 feet from Michelle Obama and watched her speak. And I'm like, why can't you just be the president of the world? But like, I can also go to a Trump rally and just be like, this is high comedy. Right.
So you've been to a Trump rally?
No, I've never been to one because, no.
You feel like, I mean, I think you could probably fit in there. Like with
Of
the red
course
hat,
I
you
would.
throw a red hat on you.
Of
and you
course
look like
I
you
would.
belong.
I am the perfect spy. I just go in there and just feed pieces of information, and they're like the big steal, and there was the election was stolen. Yeah, but you know what's great? Universal health care. Oh my gosh, it's great. You know what's great? You know what else is great? I think it was great. Just taking care of our vets.
Don't you think?
I think, yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Well, the king of going to Trump rallies,
Oh yeah.
I think, besides the people who go to travel the country just to go to them sincerely,
They're sad, but
is Jordan Klepper.
yeah. I mean,
Comedian extraordinaire. He's had his own show for a little while on Comedy Central, but now he's still kind of the correspondent that goes to Trump rallies for the Daily Show.
Yeah.
I don't know why I wouldn't have assumed that he would have come to Waukesha last week, but he did, and the video is out of his time spent right down the street as we're recording right now in downtown Waukesha.
Yep, my hometown.
Yeah, I forgot that you're from the Shaw.
The Shaw was
raised in the Shaw.
Yep.
But he came, and at this point, I also think it's interesting because he's been doing this basically since 2015.
Yeah.
And the fact that these videos go somewhat viral, they get shared a bunch. And he's also similar to you, doesn't really blend in. He looks like he's like a 6'4" blonde guy that adds another 2 inches with his hair because he spikes it up so high. So he's a recognizable person at this point. And yet he still gets these people to trust him enough to talk to him that they sign waivers that they will be on camera having a conversation with him, even though this is absolutely set up to be a gotcha and he's going to make you look stupid, and people still do it. And we're not going to play the whole thing because it's like 6 or 7 minutes long, but we grabbed a couple of the lines from his time spent in Wisconsin.
I had hoped this crowd would want to keep discussing real issues and not get distracted by conspiracies, but people had some thoughts.
I'm not going to be a conspiracist or anything like that, but I just watched a movie last week with Robin Williams in it. It was called Man of the Year. Man of the Year. And guess what? They had election fraud back then. The machines, they were switching to doing it electronically, and they were counting wrong.
Is this a documentary?
No, it's just a movie.
Are there any lessons we can take from Mork and Mindy?
No.
There's a huge push for normalizing pedophilia.
How do they normalize it? Are they making pedophiles look cool?
If you go online, there's a whole list of pedophile symbols.
Really?
Yes, they're like circular symbols. There's a lot of triangles. There's colors. A lot of them are in pizza related, like ping pong pizza, for example, in DC.
That's a pedophile pizza?
Yes.
What if I order a pizza? What images should I be on the lookout for? A triangle would mean
with a circle.
Pedophile made that pizza.
Yep.
Clarify who's still alive. Bin Laden.
JFK Jr. is still alive.
JFK Jr. is still alive.
Yeah.
So
I think JFK Jr. is going to try and expose globalists because they killed his father.
I thought he was a magazine magnate who lived in New York.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You know what the best part of that whole clip is later on towards the end, he walks up to a
pizza stand.
And he goes, I don't want this. And the guy actually goes, oh, you're anti-triangles? I'm like, what? You are like a crackpot pizza maker who gets the lingo? What? What is going on? I mean, if you go to places around Wisconsin, you can get your pieces in squares, and that's the square.
I do prefer squares.
And then it turns into like almost an appetizer, and then I'm eating the whole thing.
Like the flatbread?
Yeah, exactly. Flatbread, just more expensive pizza. Your bougie pizza. But
not
yeah.
Flatbread unless there's goat cheese on it. I'm nuts.
Wow, someone went to private school. I think that Jordan Klepper is I don't like to throw the word genius around, but what he does, he's so good at it. And I think he's just such a great improviser.
Is that what it is?
I think he's such a great improviser. Well, there's a couple things. First of all, he's well read. He knows what's going on in the world, so he can pull out these little facts and kind of throw them in their faces, but in a way that's never like, he doesn't do like the, well, what about? He's just like, just throws it out. And then people like the whole thing with JFK being a magazine magnate who lives in New York. I mean, that's just a fact. That's just what was. There's no denying that. There's literal proof in those issues. But I think when it comes down to it, those individuals he's been interviewing now for 5, 6, 7 years now, I think in their head, they think they're smarter than everyone else. So the reason why they get on camera is they think they're going to outsmart him. And they know the information that's in their head. They've heard from things like Robin Williams movies and YouTube documentaries. So they're smart. They are smart. And they're going to show that liberal Jordan Klepper that Bin Laden is alive, JFK Jr. is alive, and pizza triangles are the food of the devil.
Or at least of pedophiles.
I didn't want to say it on air, but that's a harsh word lately. I don't know why. I'm like, oh, this just sounds.
It's getting thrown around a lot.
That word has, yeah. You go to any open mic. Oh God, that word's got a lot of stank on it.
Ooh, but I think it's, it's one of those things as a comedian, now you being a comedian. I'm I'm a radio host somewhere in a comedian. I haven't been on stage with a mic in my hand in a very long time.
And I invite you every week.
I know. But is that something you can even work towards of his ability to be that quick on his feet, that because there is something that he does where he's saying it in a tone where he's almost agreeing with what they're saying, even though the words coming out of his mouth are pointing to the hypocrisy of what they're saying. And it's interesting to me because that is something that I feel like I absolutely strive for, right? On the flip side of that same show, different performer is Trevor Noah. If you've ever watched him just talk off the cuff at the commercial break when someone asks him a question and he speaks in full paragraphs, like he's had it prepared for a month.
Yeah, I think
that just comes out of his brain and out of his tongue as eloquently as it does. And it's for these guys, is it something that you have to work at, or is that just something that you're born with?
I think that the innate ability to do what they do, there's a certain, I think it's like any athlete who's born with a certain amount of natural talent, and then you have to hone it with the training.
Like an elongated Achilles. She's just born with that. You can't.
I don't know. Maybe it's Maybelline. I have no idea. But like, I think that you have a certain way of working words, and you have a certain way of performing. You have that natural sense of being funny and just thinking things off your head. And then you train to do it. Like, Jordan Klepper's been through years of improv training, years of acting training, and the fact that he's this good is wonderful. But it's not surprising, because he has all the tools in his toolbox. There's another group called the Good Liars, do similarly the same thing. They go to rallies, they go to everything, and he interviews them, and he's very dry, very acerbic, asks questions. When he gets answers, he'll just fire back with something very it kind of throws their logic back in their face, but he does it without like making fun of them. He does it without like saying gotcha. So those individuals, I think, they're just, they have a natural talent, but they've just also learned how to work that talent into something very specific. And I mean, if there were 50 Jordan Kleppers, I'd be happy, because I love watching that. It's my favorite thing to watch on the Daily Show. And and Trevor Noah, those between the takes, between the commercial breaks, and then his interviews, I love watching those. Yeah. I feel like he should be the new Dick Cavett. Like, Dick Cavett's not dead. I love Dick Cavett. It's a very old reference for all our youngsters listening right now.
I don't know
but
who that is.
You know what? You know what, Kristin? Put down your goat cheese flatbread for a moment. Get on the YouTubes and look up Dick Cavett, who is a national treasure. He has interviewed everyone from Castro to Muhammad Ali to, have you ever heard of John Lennon? John Lennon.
I do know that one.
And a lady named Yoko Ono. So he's just, he is an interviewer. He would do these shows where he would just literally sit and talk for an hour with these individuals. And you think about it in the context of today's world, you can't, and this was prime time, like 8:00 on a Thursday. I'm going to watch Dick Cavett talk to a person for an hour and have a conversation. And he's a comedian, and he would throw these jokes in there. And there was always some certain sense of discomfort with his, like he'd try to throw a joke, and if the person didn't catch it or didn't like it, he'd be like, okay, well, I'm just going to move on. But Dick Cavett's one of the best interviewers ever. And I think Trevor Noah, I don't want to say he shouldn't be doing the Daily Show, but I think he could also do another show where he simply just interviewed people.
Like, that segment of his show is too short.
Yes. Yeah.
And one of the things I think is interesting, especially about the Good Liars, Jordan Klepper, and I'm saying this with the caveat of knowing that when it happens on the flip side, I might just not find it funny. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while will come across a video of someone who is from a right-leaning, like a PragerU or Breitbart or Daily
Bee.
It's a Daily Caller or Daily Wire. I
think it's the Daily Wire.
Daily Wire is Ben Shapiro's thing, right?
Yep.
I know. And, and they'll do a similar thing where they show up at a college campus or somewhere where there's and
they're so
a lot of
bad
liberals
at it
together. And it's, they point out, they still find hypocrisy or whatever, but it's just not as funny.
No, there's a lot of videos talking about this too.
And why? And it's like, is it because people on like right-wing pundits are, and like comedians in general, like there's not a ton of right-wing comedians who have political satire that is funny. Like, even if they are personally, like, they have their comedy and their personal beliefs are more right.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily infused into their act.
Unless
you know some people that you think are funny, even though you don't agree with them politically, and they get on stage and talk about it.
We could talk about this in the next segment, because I have words.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we will keep you hanging for Greg's words on right-wing comedy.
Wow.
As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin and Brey. We'll be right back.
magic people, voodoo people.
Ooh, I like this one.
This is The Prodigy.
The Prodigy. Okay.
Yeah.
Jane, how do you rate this one?
Oh, I'm having a ball.
Which is all that really matters.
This is a whole new world for me, people.
Oh, it's good stuff. Come aboard, Jane.
All right. So
all are welcome on the music boat.
On the music boat. All right. So we're here with Greg Bach. This is As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristin Brey. We were talking about comedy in general. We were talking about Jordan Klepper and his mastery over improving when interviewing people, specifically at Trump rallies. And I asked the question of, is it just because I don't find it funny, or is there something inherent that there's less right-wing comics, or at least comics who happen to be more right-wing, but they don't put that into their comedy? And Greg has thoughts.
So I think there are a lot of comedians out there who are conservative, Republican, right-leaning, right-wing, who don't put their comedy or don't put those thoughts in it because it's, maybe it's their thought of like, it's none of anyone's business. This is my thoughts. These are my beliefs and whatnot. But I think when it comes to the putting that out there on television, when basically like one of the things is like trying to like take what the Daily Show, especially Jon Stewart era Daily Show did, and trying to, as much as they wanted to say it was a liberal show, yes, it was liberal leaning. It made fun of a lot of Republicans. It did make fun of liberals as well. It was more about the hypocrisy of the process versus we're going to make fun of only this group. Whereas the conservatives, Republicans, when it comes to things like the Daily or the I think it's called the Daily Bee, all those others, when they dip their toe into comedy, they're generally going after people and punching down almost always. They're not looking to expose hypocrisy. And if they are, they're not doing it in a funny way. They're doing the whataboutisms of everything. They're not saying, they'll make some lame Hillary Clinton joke, then tie it back to Monica Lewinsky and think they're being hilarious when really all they're doing is one, digging up a 30-year-old joke, quote unquote joke. It's not even a joke. And also, once again, poking fun at this woman who was a young person back in the day who had like little power. Like, they're just punching down. There's a great video. There's a guy he goes by Some More News. He's on YouTube, and he did like
Some More News.
Yeah, and he did an hour and 20-minute video about breaking down why conservatives aren't funny, because essentially, at the end of the day, they are using a formula that's not very good. Like if they, you could, I think you could have. The thing is, you could have a conservative version of The Daily Show, but unfortunately, it already exists. It's called The Daily Show in the sense where they do make fun of Biden. They do make fun of Nancy Pelosi. They might not do it as much as you like, but they're still calling them out, making fun of them, and making jokes. And they're doing it better because they have smarter writers who know where to find the jokes. It's not about going after what Nancy Pelosi looks like. It's going about the fact that she is a multimillionaire octogenarian who has had a lot of power in her life and isn't in touch with the people anymore. You can make those jokes. And some would even say you don't even go after her age, but I mean, whatever. The point is conservative type comedy shows like this. And like one of the best examples is, I think his name is Jesse Waters. His last name is Waters, Watters. He's on Fox. He's now a anchor because he was so unfunny they couldn't make this bit work, but he would do a Daily Show type of man on the street, and he did one where he interviewed he went to Chinatown to talk about the election. I think this was 2016, and then what the Daily Show did, Ronnie Chang got on there and just ripped him apart, because all they did was he would interview people who couldn't speak English. He would interview these old people who didn't understand him, and then they make fun of him by playing bumper music of like kung fu fighting, and he would go like, it was awful. And that's what they think is funny. That's what they think their version of the Daily Show is, which it's just making fun of people. And if you don't like it, you're too sensitive. Too sensitive.
You just ruined comedy.
I'm a comedy ruiner, friends. You guys want to listen to some Andrew Dice Clay cassette tapes?
Greg, in order to be funny too, don't you have to have a sense of self-awareness and a sense of irony?
Yes, I think the best comedians do. Absolutely. I think the best comedians have to understand that who they are, even if they have a high opinion of themselves. I mean, there are comedians out there who love themselves, and their names rhyme with Maeve Tappel. He thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and some people think he's the greatest comedian who ever lived, and that's fine. Those are all opinions you can have, but you have to have a sense of self. You have a sense of irony. You have to have a sense of that you're not like I don't know, like I think that
you're still the jester.
You're the jester. We're the messenger. We're the ones who can make fun of the king or the queen. We're the ones who have to do it in a smart way so we don't get beheaded.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of comedians out there who are great at it, and many of you have never heard of. And but when it comes to like the conservative, like I remember one year I saw a guy, he very rightfully so. I think he writes for the Daily Bee now. He's a right-wing comic, and he got on stage and he made people laugh. He really did. But like, even still, I'm like, God, your jokes are still like based in this meanness. Like, you have to have the right audience to make that work. Because if you walk into the wrong place, they're going to devour you.
Well, you also have to be somewhat likable. Like, I remember when I was first starting to do comedy in New York, and I was taking like an intro stand-up class. And the teacher was talking about, I can't even remember the other comic he was referencing because that guy never became famous, but he was like an unbelievable writer.
Yeah.
But he wasn't as likable as Jerry Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
So Jerry Seinfeld became Jerry Seinfeld, who is also a very good writer.
Yeah.
But he was saying that there's a certain amount of like the comics that we know, you still kind of have to root for them. Like, you can't just be a despicable person and think that you're going to be a super successful comic, because if you don't like, even if the things that they're saying on stage are funny and well written and clever, like there's a charisma there that you gotta kind of be rooting for the person. And if you're just mean, it's hard to convey that.
You have to have charm. Yeah. You have to be able to say, like, if you were going to be one of those mean people, like one of the best examples, and he was never, this argument can be back and forth, but Don Rickles. People would go to Don Rickles shows and want to be made fun of for the things that people get angry about now. They're going to go to that show back then and say, make fun of that. Destroy me. I want you to take everything that I'm sensitive about and just say it out loud for everyone to laugh at. And I've seen him do it. I saw him do it. It was amazing. And everyone was laughing and everyone was together, but he has that charm. And I think it's a couple things. One, lightning quick wit, a pedigree and a legacy that is 60 years in. And also, at the end of the day, he gets off stage and he's the kindest, gentlest man there is. He's he's loving and he's connective to his people, to his audience. The way he tells stories. I mean, they should have made a documentary about Las Vegas where he was the only person interviewed, because he had all those amazing stories. So I think you can say mean things. And I'm not huge on that. That's not how my comedy works, but you do have to have a charm. You have to be able to say something and be like, but you're still great.
Yeah.
I mean, and once again, I'm sure we could hear tweets or messages saying I'm wrong, and that's fine. Maybe I am, but I also know when I'm on stage, I don't do that.
All right. Always interesting to talk comedy with you. But when we come back, our friend Dan Shafer is going to talk to us about about being on the homepage of the New York Times. Kind of a big deal. All right. We'll be back after the news.
Dueling Tangents with Luke and Brian.
I'm really trying hard not to go insane from the mind screw that is this situation with the I was going to say the GAB, but
We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Get 10% off your next order of Dynovite nutritional supplements for dogs at dynovite.com. Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
The Shaw 101 FM, Franklin's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
Hey there, fellow working class heroes. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, and we are now on the air in Waukesha, live weeknights 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM, The Shaw. Turn on, tune in, and help us rebuild the American dream. Check out our website at thericksmithshow.com. The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk. Weeknights 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM, The Shaw.
Let me tell you about Ruby Isle Auto in Milwaukee. They're family owned, and John, Kathy, Jim, and Corey have been in business over 40 years. Ruby Isle Auto is located at 11137 West Silver Spring Drive, right off of I-41. And if you mention WAUK 540 AM or the Earl Ingram Show, you get $10 off your oil change. Schedule today by calling 414-438-1900. Ruby Isle Auto, your friends in the car business.
COVID-19 vaccines are starting to become available across the country. Now is the time to get informed. Get the latest information at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. A message brought to you by the Ad Council and the CDC.
It's 4 a.m. and you're sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. If you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Matnair with your headlines. The Wisconsin Department of Health Services has secured close to 6,000 vials of a monkeypox vaccine. They'll be delivered to the state in several phases. Nearly 600 doses were administered as of Tuesday. The vaccine's being sent to central hubs in Eau Claire, Green Bay, Madison, and Milwaukee for further distribution to clinics, health departments, and other groups. As supplies increase, DHS will add more vaccine locations because of
Live programming for WAUK Radio 540 AM and 101 FM is produced right in the Shaw in beautiful downtown Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Bringing some sanity to the airwaves. The Shaw 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin, Brey. My guest today is Craig Bach.
The bringer of Milk Lizard.
Just the music is, I mean, it's easy to get like hyped up as when you're listening to this.
It's fun to be a
Just
metalhead.
imagining you in your car just head rocking.
Head rocking, Grandma? What was that?
I don't know. It's kind of like
those kids.
the rosary versus the rosemary. I
Those
don't know.
kids with their MTV and their head rocking. It's going to lead to debauchery.
They're going to hurt themselves.
Their necks are going to be just wrecked.
All right. Well, speaking about being hyped, friend of the show, he's been on here multiple times. We're so excited to have him to talk about his big op-ed that was in the New York Times. Dan Shafer, how are you feeling? You're just like, you sitting pretty this week? Uh-oh, we couldn't say it again. You broke up a little bit.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Now we can hear you. Perfect.
Now you can hear me. Okay.
How you feeling?
Well, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's been quite the week.
I bet. And so, I mean, I don't know how many people in your life knew that you were writing this for the New York Times. I was one of them. I kept it to myself, which is a big shock because I sometimes can have a very big mouth, especially having a radio show. But I was so happy for you that because it went live on Tuesday.
Yeah, it went live right after Mandela Barnes was declared the winner of the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate. So the story went live Tuesday night, and it's been a pretty wild experience from there. Yeah,
and so briefly, I mean, I've read it, but as far as anyone who hasn't read the article, what was the thesis of your piece? Especially because you kind of had to change directions, even though you'd been working on it for a while, when the other three top opponents or other candidates who were running dropped out. And so kind of what is the thesis of what you said? But then I also want to talk about what a big deal it is.
She's such a proud mama bear. Just look at her. She's just beaming.
No, so basically this story, like you mentioned, there's been a couple different versions of this as the larger dynamic of the primary has changed. But basically, I think when this Senate race between Mandela Barnes and Ron Johnson is going to be a national race. It's going to get a lot of national attention. And I think one of the things that distinguishes Barnes and just really distinguishes the other top candidates in the race when it was a competitive primary is that he's young. Mandela Barnes is young. He's 35. He's new to this type of high stakes political campaigning, but I think there's an interesting generational shift aspect to this race and just to American politics in general. There are not many millennials who are in Congress. There's only 31 millennials who are in the House and only one millennial senator, John Ossoff of Georgia. So the makeup of the Senate is rather old. There are about as many people over the age of 80 in the Senate as there are under the age of 50. And so it is the oldest Senate in American history. And so I think, what's become clear with the Senate in general, and I think to a certain extent with some aspects of Democratic leadership in the Senate, is that there's a disconnect between the older leadership and a lot of younger voters and younger people who want to have their views better represented in Congress, in the Senate. So I think Mandela Barnes, as a 35-year-old, Black millennial from Milwaukee, can give voice to some lived experiences that are not necessarily represented in the Senate. And I think for a lot of millennials, they want to see a more urgent, active Congress because so many of us have come of age in this time of crisis, whether it's the Great Recession or the pandemic or what have you. There's just a lot of problems that need big, bold solutions. And I think we haven't always been getting them. And I think part of what is needed to get to that point is to start electing younger people. And I think Mandela Barnes, more so than any other Democratic candidate in a high profile midterm Senate race this year, he's quite a bit younger than all of the other, the John Fettermans and the Tim Ryans and the other high profile races that you might see around the country. Barnes really stands out as a younger candidate. And I think that is both, he both shows that he doesn't necessarily have the type of experience that you might expect from somebody running for Senate, but he is also, I think, underestimated because of it. And I think that age and youth can be an asset to him in this race. So that is part of what I wrote about.
Part of what you wrote about.
Yeah.
I feel like that's absolutely true in the sense of like one thing that the youth and they can whip up the energy better and they can reach those individuals who've never voted, who don't vote a lot, who have a little belief in the system. They can knock on those doors and say, I'm like, look at me. I'm of your age. I'm going through the things you're going through, and say, this is why I need you to count on me. This is why I need your help. And I think that Mandela definitely brings, I mean, he already has, but especially going into this next round, will definitely bring that energy, will definitely bring the excitement.
Well, and one of the points you made in your article that I hadn't even thought of as, they're usually thrown out there as, knocks against Barnes. So his property taxes thing, his parking ticket thing, the fact that he was on Badger Care at one point, because what we all forget is that if you're not an established rich person, you have to basically lose your job to campaign and run for something, or if you're not already an incumbent, right? So most of the people who are running were still getting a paycheck, even because they were already in an elected position. And so it becomes a lot easier to have the time to campaign when you have a paycheck versus people who, in order to campaign, that's a full-time job. So they have to quit their job to do it and whatever. And so these things that get thrown out there by more like establishment, kind of like the old guard, that are going to be problems for his background or things that have happened. And one of the points you made that I actually really resonated with me is being in your 30s and like not being necessarily the most financially stable still, because of whether it was life choices or because of things that have just happened over the last, since we all have became adults, and realizing that that's actually a point of, for some of us, of, oh, you get my struggle, versus, oh, well, you're clearly just a sloppy person and that shouldn't be trusted with government.
Right. And I think making some early career mistakes and making some financial mistakes and having to rely on, public services like Badger Care, I think that's a part of a pretty typical millennial experience for a lot of people. And I don't think that, I think that the Badger Care one in particular, I think that drew some negative headlines. When that happened, I thought that's not going to hurt him in this race. That's going to show people that he has experience, using these safety net type services that I think all people want to have there, and many millennials who have struggled in the job market, impacted by the Bush Great Recession that took a long time to come back from. Like, I think that permanently altered the trajectory of this generation, and I think a lot of people have similar experiences to what Barnes has been attacked for. So I do think that that's part of his story as well.
I think one of the things too, coming from my background is working in campaigns, and when you're advising someone who's running, it's we have to look at all the things, all the good, all the bad, and when I'm not, and when I say bad, I mean the bad as perceived by society, by the voters, and say, own these things, and you hold them up, and you say, yeah, I was on Badger Care because I needed it. There's no shame in it. And once you do that, you control the message. You control the direction of the conversation, and they can go ahead and say it all they want, but at that point, it's a non-story. That when you run away from those things or you deny them or anything, but the moment you hold them up and you say, no, this is who I am. I'm one of you, and this is how it helped me and how it can help you. And you move forward, and everyone else is like, well, we can't hit him on Badger Care because he's not ashamed of it. We were hoping he'd be ashamed of it, but he's not. And I think that's one of the most important things in running a campaign is, especially in this modern day where these, I can't think of the people who run, the word is not
candidates.
Thank you. Wow. It's a long day.
Head wrecking.
head rocking. All that head rocking to that heavy metal music. But I think we do see our candidates, and you mentioned this in the article, Dan, is that we see their flaws, and it's no longer a bad thing. We don't, we want to be able to identify with these individuals because they're real people. They're not, like back in 20, 30 years ago, maybe you would hide this stuff away, but no, they're assets as part of the campaign process. These flaws, as long as they're not like so deep that they could go to jail. But no, I think it's great. I think it's great to take that message and run with it and make it a positive.
Yeah, I think there's an authenticity to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, are you famous now? How many people have reached out to you this week?
Do we have to call you? Do we have to refer to you as the Dan Shafer?
always referenced in print in italics. It's been pretty surreal. I mean, seeing your name on the homepage of the New York Times is pretty surreal experience to have as a journalist. So I've just been trying to take it all in and enjoy it. And, I put a lot of work into this piece. So I'm glad that people are, have a chance to read it and that it is resonating with people. And I've had a lot of positive feedback about it. So it's been pretty wild.
Dan, can I ask, what's the process as far as like, were you approached by the New York Times? Do you submit something to them? Is it like...
Well, we only have a minute left before we have to go to the break. So ask your question.
Talk fast.
Dan, you can think of the answer and we'll bring you back after break to answer. So finish your question, then we'll go to break.
The whole process is like, from start to finish, especially the fact that, as Kristin said, she had to keep her mouth shut. So there, of course, you can't tell people, but like just that thing of like being approached or you reaching out, I'm interested because,
All right. So you think of your
we'll leave that as a cliffhanger, I guess.
Cliffhanger. Yeah. All right, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, Dan Shafer will still be here, Greg Bach will still be here, Jane Madnair will still be here, and I, Kristin Brey, will still be here. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
WAUK and the Shaw are the new kids on the radio block, and that block happens to be on Wisconsin Ave, Waukesha. Now is a great time to advertise locally with 540 AM and the Shaw 101 FM, while the ads are inexpensive and the audience is rapidly growing. Sponsorships available for This Week in Waukesha, Raised in the Shaw, or live local music on the weekends. Spring packages starting at just $495 a month. Get started today by emailing info@waukradio.com.
Announcing Friday Night Live, broadcasting live from Waukesha and only on the Shaw 540 AM and 101 FM. Live music every Friday night beginning at 6 p.m., broadcasting from the 5 Points in downtown Waukesha. Friday Night Live broadcasting begins June 3rd at 6 p.m. and will play out all summer long. A special guest host each Friday night. Tune in for the music and variety or come downtown to the 5 Points and join the party. Friday Night Live only on the Shaw.
Hey, it's Kristin Brey from As Goes Wisconsin, which is now a radio show. That's right, I'm taking the same fun and uncomplicated approach to talking about state and local news to the airwaves. Starting July 5th, me and my friends from all parts of the state and all different backgrounds will break down the Wisconsin headlines in a way that informs, entertains, and hopefully makes you laugh. Tune in to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Brey, Monday through Friday from 12 p.m. to 2 on 101 FM The Shaw and WAUK 540 AM.
Dueling Tangents with Luke and Brian.
I'm really trying hard not to go insane from the mind screw that is this situation with the I was going to say the GAB, but now it's the WEC, which was audited by the LAB, and then it's now screwed up by the GOP, and we're all SOL. Good for us. Congratulations.
Look at all those acronyms. Yeah.
We're the winners.
Tune in for Dueling Tangents every weekday at 2.
Does it come back? Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. This is Kristin Brey. My guest co-host today is Greg Bach. We are joined by Dan Shafer talking about his New York Times article that was printed this week. And Greg was asking about the process of how does something like this even happen for a independent columnist based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
Well, apparently there was somebody who either subscribed to the Recombobulation Area or knew of me through this stuff, and they reached out to me to write a piece about the primary, Democratic primary for U.S. Senate in Wisconsin. And at first, I had to kind of make sure that I wasn't getting like messed with,
like punked.
I had to make sure that I was like, okay, this seems like a real person. All right, the New York Times insignia and the signature. Okay, is this okay? Yeah, I think this is a real person. And then, kind of went from there. So I had
Was it like malware trying to attack your computer?
It would be an effective way to mess with journalists. Now that I think of it, though, just like copy the image from like the Washington Post and put it in your email signature and mess with independent journalists.
You've made it.
Yeah, that's right. But it's been quite the last few weeks working on this, and like you mentioned before, it was something that I was working on when there was still a primary to be had, and so it's been a few different versions of the story, and I'm happy the way it turned out that it did, but it's been quite the road to get here. So
nice.
You look like you had a question. You got
No.
And so is this? Did they ask you to do a follow-up?
I'm not getting it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just happy that it got published.
Do you own the New York Times now? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I'm in charge now.
Yeah.
I'm in charge of all the reporters going to diners all over the Midwest.
So as far as, I guess, going back to the race itself, like, is this, whether it's for the New York Times or just for Recombobulation Area, which is your column, everyone should subscribe to it and pay to subscribe to it. What are you most excited about to follow? I mean, obviously Wisconsin politics are always nuts. But as far as the threads that you're excited to pull on over the next 3 months, whether it's for specifically the Senate race, or also we have a governor's race and everything else that's going to be happening. But like, as a journalist, what are you excited to follow?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm been thinking and writing a lot about this particular race. And I think Barnes versus Ron Johnson, somebody who I've also had a lot to say about over the years, is just an incredible contrast. And it's just a fascinating race on so many levels. I think in most I think in most races, because of just the larger dynamics of the midterms, Republicans are going to be favored in states like Wisconsin that are typical 50-50 states. That's just kind of how things work with the midterms. But I also think there's so much happening that is making this not your typical midterm year, whether it's Roe being overturned or whether it's, like we're seeing in Wisconsin, which is like the Republican primary went so far to the right to try to get the Trump endorsement and placate the election deniers and all that. Like, I think there's a lot of forces right now that make this not your typical midterm year. A number of wins in Congress for Democrats as of late as well. But I think it's, I think like I made sure to make this point in the piece too. I think Ron Johnson is the favorite in this race. Like, Mandela Barnes has a chance to win, and I outlined many of the reasons why I think he can win in the piece, but I think he's still the underdog. All the prognosticators in this race make him the underdog. Johnson's going to be extremely well funded. He's got that Uline money behind him. But I think what's going to be interesting to follow is if this is going to follow the typical dynamics of what you would expect from a midterm election year, or if this is going to be something else. If Roe and if election deniers and if wins in Congress for Democrats are going to change the larger dynamics of this race. So that's I think what it's going to be most interesting to follow. And I think the Barnes Johnson one in particular, man, it's going to be an absolutely wild campaign.
A Barnes burner.
There you go.
Yeah. Hit me up, New York Times.
One thing I haven't asked anyone yet since doing any kind of breakdown since Tuesday night, did you read anything into turnout as far as how many people? Because I don't know how much to read into it, just because once the Barnes, like the Democratic Senate race, kind of became a no-brainer, if people that would have turned out didn't turn out, or I don't know, that's something you and I have talked about before as far as who's excited to vote. And do you think there was anything telling on Tuesday night that indicates or gives more clues to what it's going to be like in November?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it was with the way the race changed, it's so hard to tell from the Democratic side what that's going to mean for turnout. I think turnout's going to be strong from the right, from Republicans, but I think that they are now so fractured from that primary. You know, one of the things that I noticed from the primary that I didn't even think about going into it was that there was somebody else on the ballot with Ron Johnson.
Yeah,
That you like,
who got
obviously there's
109,000 votes.
yeah, David Schrader got 16% of the vote against Ron Johnson and got out more than 100,000 votes. I didn't even know that there were, I mean, obviously I wasn't paying attention to this at all, but like, I didn't know that there was somebody going to be on the ballot next to Johnson, and that, a significant chunk of the voters are almost just kind of casted protest votes against Johnson. And one of the things that I noted in my piece about Johnson was that he has totally lost the center in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
He has, his favorability rating with moderates is just 21%.
I mean,
Wow.
he's pushed himself so far to the right, and because I'll say it, he's not smart enough to make his own opinion. So,
all right. Well, Dan Shafer, thank you for joining us. Everyone go read his piece in the New York Times and subscribe to the Recombobulation Area. We'll have you on soon, my friend. Congratulations.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll be back after the break.
The Shaw 101 FM, your fix for progressive talk. From Muskego to Milwaukee. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
You didn't want to scratch, but then you got the itch. You only wanted snow out, but you got the witch. You know you
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. This is Kristin Brey. Our guest today is Greg Bach. What band was that?
The Eagles of Death Metal. It is a side project of Queens of the Stone Age, fronted by, I can't remember his last name, of a guy named Jesse. He looks like he just walked out of a biker bar in Hollywood. But the song is fantastic. The band is just pure rock and roll. And the lead singer of Queens of the Stone Age is actually the drummer of that band. So it's very fun. It's a good song. It makes, I think there was a time when that song came out. I think I listened to it every day for like a month. It's a good pep song. Like, it's fun.
So as I think as women, Jane and I are very used to the pressures that are put on us to not age, even though to age is to not die, because your two options are either get older or die.
You're forgetting the third, vampire. You're welcome.
Duh. But I saw this, and the pressure is not only on women, and there is a new way for men to approach aging, it sounds like. So, Greg, how are your T levels right now?
Oh my God. Well, are we doing this? My Earl Grey, my English breakfast, they're great. I got a bunch of it at home. You want to come over? We'll sip some wonderful tea.
Some mint lavender.
Yes. Yeah. I
actually meant testosterone.
Yeah, I know what you meant. I know what you meant. You head rocking weirdo. No, I honestly, I don't know. I've got things going on in my life, honestly.
Like, haven't gotten him tested lately.
Could not care less at this point in my life.
So this is a GQ article,
which is the New York Times of
men's
quarterlies.
And it's the headline is how testosterone therapy is transforming aging. If I could get my T's out, how testosterone therapy is transforming aging. And this is a heterosexual cis male magazine for the most part, so it approaches the trend of whether it's through creams or shots or all of these different methods of men opting to up their testosterone levels to combat aging and virality and all of these things. And I thought it was interesting for a lot of different, I think there's multiple different ways this conversation could go. Because I think on one hand, it's interesting that it feels like despite the enormous amount of attention that we try to bring to it's okay to age and like the body positivity, and there's a lot of Allure magazine said they were going to stop ever using the term anti-aging altogether, but it's all just like turned into it's not anti-aging, it's like radiant. There's still so much marketed towards us to not get wrinkles, to not look old. And on the women's side, this has been forever. But instead of that actually feeling like it's being alleviated, it's now just like also going towards men. And it's interesting to me of like, to the extent of hormone therapy, something that is typically been reserved for people who are transitioning. And so this is something that is an actual, not procedure, but something that is very important and typically had been, I think, reserved for people who either had very low testosterone and for their own health were getting injections or supplements of that, or people who are transitioning from male to female. And now it's kind of being used as this like vanity thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We take this thing that's important to people and we say, you know what, I want to be a little more randy. Hey, give me some of that cream. I don't know why I was so disappointed in this article. I think it's because like I was reading it from the point of view of like, oh, these people are having problems with their bodies, so they're doing these. And then as I'm reading more and more, I'm like, oh, these are, can I say it on the air? They're douchebags. These are just a bunch of douchebags who are like like, I want to be more fun in the sack. I got to put a cream or put a shot in my butt or something. I don't know. I don't know why I gave him that voice.
Well,
but
truly, I mean, they say the people referenced in the article that are famous is Joe Rogan, Dax Shepard. Who else was thrown out there? And
they talk about Jeff Bezos.
Oh, was he on there? Yeah.
They talk about Jeff Bezos.
And, and in the juxtaposition to this article, one that I had seen recently is from Vox of how the anti-aging industry turns you into a customer for life.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the women referenced in that are also very, J-Lo and
Paulina Poroskova.
Yes. And people who, these women who are 50 plus now, who still look like they're 28.
Yeah.
And we celebrate them for looking that good at 50, not realizing that they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And there's it takes money to be able to continue to look that way. And that shouldn't necessarily be the goal, in the same way that this article referenced very wealthy people who are just kind of able to afford this kind of therapy for vanity.
I think that when, you talk about the body positivity movement, and I used to have a podcast where we talked about body positivity, the, weight loss journeys and things like that, called 8 Months Away from Being Fat Again. Go check it out. Available still online.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. It was a fun podcast. We'd like to bring it back, but who has the time? Point is, we also talked, one of the things we talked about is we never got into like the anti-aging thing, but especially when it comes to the body positivity, but I think this is just as applicable. You've got to be the right kind of old. You've got to be the right kind of fat. You got to be the right kind of this, the right kind of that. The body positivity movement is a corporatized, monetized thing that we put on commercials where we're like, yes, feel good about your body if it's the right body, because they're quick to tell you when it's not. And society's quick to tell you when it's not. And when it comes to things like this, as far as men doing this with regard to, hey, so it's a free country, and if you have the money, go ahead and do it. But like, man, we had somebody reach out to us via Twitter and talking about how this affects trans people and like the effects of using testosterone. And at no point does GQ even mention it. Like, I'm not even asking for like 2 paragraphs. I'm saying it also has these applications too when it comes to using it for individuals. But no, this is just all like vain douchebags who are like, man, I really want to feel good in the morning. I'm so angry at this article. So angry.
But I also think it's interesting because at one point in the article, they say they start to touch in on how testosterone affects you mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And I had remember once listening to This American Life podcast episode where someone who was trans, who had most of their life thought they were like a butch lesbian, but ultimately realized like, no, I actually think I want to transition to being a man. And
Mm-hmm.
they did. And they documented not only just the physical changes that started to happen, but also the mental changes that started to happen. And we're very honest that the way, even though they had been attracted to women as a lesbian, and now that they were becoming a man, still attracted to women, but the way that he would see a stranger, like a woman who was a stranger on the subway, and the way he would objectify her was very different when he was a lesbian. And so like there is actually mental things that testosterone does to you. It's not just like an anti-aging cream where it affects your attitude. There's so many things that point to young men and their high levels of testosterone that leads to violence, that leads to sexual assaults, and just like it leads to anger, right?
Yeah.
That sometimes that we point to the difference between biological, cis men and women and stuff. And so like, I also wanted to just do this without, I don't know, for the sake of looking better. It's kind of like taking steroids and not understanding that the effect that steroids has on your mentality and your attitude and your mental health.
And they're not even looking better. That's the thing, is like they're doing it like, there is one sentence. This is where like it just started me just being mad at this. It's one sentence, and I hope I can say it. It's not a curse word, but he just was like, I am hornier. That's what he said. He's not saying I'm feeling better. It's like, oh, this is what you want. This is like this. Like, I don't know, like to me, I would love to read an article where it could say like, I take testosterone and save my life, coming from the point of view of a trans man or a man. And, but yeah, this is just vain douchebags. GQ, be better, GQ. Sorry, I'm getting off my soapbox and I'm going to head rock in the corner now.
But in a different, do you feel as a man pressures around aging?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think I'm high profile enough. I think women. So this is, please just take this as just my opinion, but I think where it affects most, if not all women, because the pressures of society upon you to look, act, however society thinks they think you should. It only affects men in certain ways, whereas like depending on what we do. So like our jobs, if our levels of fame, like no one cares that I look like this. My doctor does. My doctor's worried. Seriously.
The beard's got to go, man.
I mean, I think I saw
there.
Dan's beard. I'm like, just chop it down, Greg. Seriously, chop it down. But like, no, I did. Like the only pressures I feel are the pressures I feel of myself. Even if people make, like if my friends jab me for being my age or having gray in my beard or having bags under my eyes, which just feels mean, but still, like, I don't feel an external pressure from anybody because that's the beauty and privilege of being a man in this society. I get to walk through the raindrops of that stuff and not even think about it. Whereas, you know, even though like I can tell you when I pick up a magazine, not a single one of those men look like me. And it does sometimes you're like, oh, I don't look like that. And it hurts because I don't feel like, I'll say it all out. I don't feel beautiful. You know, guys can, you know, we're, you know, we can be cute, we can be hot, we can be all these like masculine ways of saying beautiful.
Sexy.
But like, you know, when it comes down, there's a lot of guys out there, myself included, is like, you look at yourself and you're like, I just want to be beautiful. Like I want to be pretty. I would love to be pretty. And that's just the truth. But that's a whole internal struggle. Society isn't pushing that at me. I'm sure like the magazines are saying you're not beautiful enough to be in these magazines, but I'm also not calling up GQ and saying, you guys are mean.
Well, you're also just, your value has never been wrapped up in what you look like necessarily.
Thank God, because that's a lot of exercise.
Versus, I'm assuming, Jane, you've felt that your value has, at one point in your life, been like assigned to what you looked like.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it is completely bound up with who you are, your palatability, your attractiveness, your desirability, is part of what gives you credibility as a woman.
There's a great scene. Have you watched Grace and Frankie?
Yes.
Have you watched Grace and Frankie?
So good.
Watch most of the
That scene, I forgot if it's in season 1 or season 2, where Grace, who's played by Jane Fonda, is trying to get the attention of someone at the grocery store. And she just has a meltdown. She's like, I'm not invisible. Like I am here.
Mm-hmm.
And she plays it. I mean, she's such an incredible actress, but that vulnerability of someone who spent her entire life, that character, also Jane Fonda, who also looks incredible.
Yeah.
Your entire career, like life, people pay attention to you because you're beautiful. And then you hit a certain age or you look a certain way. And then all of a sudden people stop paying attention to you and you feel invisible. And that scene is always has stuck with me because, you know, I think I know that I look a certain way. I know there's a certain amount of attention I've gotten in my life simply because of what I look like, not because of what I have to say.
Yeah.
And like, eventually that's going to go away.
Yeah.
And like the identity crisis that goes with that. And so for some of these men, that is real for them. They're high profile.
It's their being.
It's like it's part of how they've attained.
Yeah.
They think that they've attained success and they need to be able to keep that in order to keep their success.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't want to totally pass judgment that there's not something psychologically there that is tied to feeling young, feeling attractive, being part of, like, you need that to have your identity. But I would certainly say that it's more on women than it is on men.
But I don't disagree with you. I think there's one more component that definitely and once again, I can't speak for anybody but myself, but also being virile. That caveman idea of like, I can reproduce. I have the ability to create life. And like, it's real caveman stuff, but it's locked into some of these dudes' brains. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're doing it. Because if they don't feel like they can get themselves going in the bedroom, what good are they? Or it's a part of the puzzle that's not there anymore. And that's unfortunate because that's not, I mean, if you want to have a kid, cool, but it shouldn't be a part of your being. It shouldn't be something you identify with. But once again, these guys are just vain douchebags. So.
And on that note, we're going to go to our last break. We'll be back in just a minute. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Brey.
If you think you need a home inspection,
Nothing more than feeling.
I couldn't help myself.
Trying to forget my.
You just made Greg break down in tears.
I thought, what could be the complete antithesis of death metal?
Death metal is sadder than you know. All right, okay. It's just us feeling feelings, but louder, and inaudible lyrics.
Feeling feelings, but louder. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. We are near the end of the show. Our guest today is Greg Bach, comedian, co-owner of the Laughing Tap Comedy Club in Milwaukee, which has a comedy fest in not too long.
No, actually, it's creeping up on us again. Every year it happens.
Got to put on a whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, baby. So October 2nd through the 9th is going to be the 17th annual Milwaukee Comedy Fest, one of the longest running comedy festivals, guess what, in the world.
That's wild.
They don't last a long time, a lot of them.
Well, there are a lot of work to put on, I would imagine.
Good gravy, yes.
I started for a hot second trying to help you guys pick comedians, and then I was like, I don't have time.
You're like,
Sorry.
I have like 90 other things to do.
But it was one of those things where my heart said yes, but my schedule said nope.
Nah. So basically what happens is comedians from all over the world apply, and we go through and we look at all their videos, and we pick about 3 dozen to come to Milwaukee for that 2nd to the 9th of October, performing probably, I think, either 12 to 14 shows over the course of a week. And we're going to have great people coming from all over the country. We actually just sent out our acceptance. So like there's a lot of people coming back saying they're confirmed. And one of the big confirmed name is Lori Kilmartin.
Ooh.
Is going to be headlining the final night at Shank Hall, October the 9th. You can find your tickets at mkecomedyfest.com. And Lori is fantastic. She was a writer for Conan. She's been on Conan as a performer, has a wonderful podcast called The Jackie and Lori Show, which is her and Wisconsin native Jackie Cation talking about everything from the comedy club scene.
Jackie Cation?
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And when you meet her, you're like, you are Wisconsin. They highlight female comedians, which is great. They have a comedian of the week every week, and it's wonderful. I'm looking for. I've never met Lori. We follow each other on Twitter, which is wonderful. She doesn't have to do that, but she does. So I'm looking forward to seeing and meeting her and seeing her on stage. Actually, I take that back. We did meet in LA. Wow, that was real industry right there. Just dropped that. Like in LA, I was in LA one time, but yeah, I was a part of a comedy festival, and she just popped in. She's like, "Can I do some time?" And we're like, "Yeah, of course we can." So yeah, that'll be fun. Be shows all over the city with our remote partners. So like some shows at Bar Gallery. I'm I actually don't think we've confirmed that yet, but we're going to have a show at Dandy, which is a wonderful vintage shop in Milwaukee. Shows at the Laughing Tap. So like I said, mkecomedyfest.com. You 14th caller gets free tickets. No,
we should do that.
We could totally do
Give me
that.
some free tickets.
Yeah,
I'll
actually,
promote it.
Yeah, totally. We'll totally do that when I come back. Yeah, we're gonna have a good time. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be. I mean, you think about like Sunday to Sunday. It's a week-long comedy fest. It's gonna be bananas.
Well, speaking of
Fruit?
funny stuff. Funny doing good. Did you see what Cards Against? Are you a Cards Against Humanity fan?
Oh, I am.
The game?
I own many expansion packs.
Do you?
I actually. Can I
Do
tell
you
a
own
real-
the big black box?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Can I tell you a really quick story about this?
Okay.
So, for like 4 years, the people at Cards Against Humanity, or as we call them, CH, they would do this special Christmas thing. It was or a holiday thing, I should say. And it was like a limited amount of packages. You had to put your name in. You paid like $20, and I did it all the years. And basically, you would get custom cards. Like you get like one of a kind cards. Like you wouldn't find this in any of the boxes or any expansion packs. And one year, the first year, they said, "Hey, who is this gift for?" I'm like, "Oh, it's for Bridget Bach, my wife. Yeah, because I want to give it to her and make her happy because we love the game." So we get the package, and I look, and there's a card with her full name on that. And guess what? She wasn't as thrilled about being a part of the game as I thought she'd be, because guess who would, like, it gets dirty, people. It gets dirty.
Do you remember one of the times her name was put as the answer? Can you say it on the radio?
No.
Okay.
No, but let me just say that every time we play with my mother-in-law, she handily destroys us with some of the most cringy things, and she's just, whether she gets it or not, but she just has the touch of dirty, and she's just like boom, and we're like, okay,
That's the funniest.
all right,
We'll go with
Christmas
that
is
one.
ruined again. So yeah, okay, so go on.
Anyways, so I saw this Cards Against Humanity. I don't even know when this happened, but they have a landing page right now that says, "Your state sucks." Dear customers living in Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. Today, we are releasing some new packs. But while the packs were being printed, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and your state immediately turned itself into a dystopian forced birth hellscape.
Love that word.
We're donating 100% of profits from orders to your nightmare state to the National Network of Abortion Funds, plus $100,000 right now to help the people most effed over by the Republicans in your state government. We don't need your money. We also wanted to know what on earth the people in your state were thinking. So we asked them a few questions. You will unfortunately not believe. Oh, you unfortunately will believe what we found. For the love of God, don't forget to vote. From Cards Against Humanity. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean,
it's really cool.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a fun game, and I know their hearts are in the good places and doing good work for good people. And yeah, I hate the fact that we were part of that terrible song you just sang. It should have had more rhythm.
Well, I couldn't quite because there wasn't quite as many states, but Alaska, 50 nifty United States. So I'm surprised no one's used that as a parody yet, because it really is like half the states.
I think challenge accepted.
You got that? You want next time?
We got that.
We got it.
We got it. I'll bring a guitar in. We'll
write some lyrics.
We'll donate all the proceeds to a great group. We'll make dozens of dollars.
We'll find something that rhymes with dystopian forced birth hellscape.
Yep. Called all we have to do is just rhyme hellscape.
What do you got?
Cold paste. I don't know.
Hellscape and cold paste do not rhyme.
Hey, this is the beginning process, okay? It's creativity. Don't step on my creative brain.
This is the time that you just throw everything against the wall and you don't judge it.
Exactly. It's called improv, baby. You yes and. Take my triangle pizza and leave.
Ooh, triangles? You don't like triangles?
I want pizza right now.
Well, it's past lunchtime, so.
Or as I call it, early dinner.
Early dinner. Supper?
Supper, definitely.
Supper.
Yeah.
All right. Where can people find you?
You can find me at my new house in Kenosha. Don't come over, please. It's a mess. No, you can find me on the social medias at I am Greg Bach at all the social media. So if there's a social media, just type in I am Greg Bach. I'm probably there, and you can follow me and see things. You can go to The Laughing Tap on social media, The Laughing Tap. Also at Milwaukee Comedy to find about shows that we're doing around the area. And then, as I said before, MKE Comedy Fest is a social media handles as well. Follow me, follow us. Have a good time.
All right. Thank you for being here, friend.
Thank you for being my friend.
Until next time.
I adore you.
Fingers touch. This is As Goes Wisconsin. We'll see you tomorrow.